Hi, let's learn how to say when in German. So in English, you only have the word when and you use it both for asking questions and for telling stories or talking about plans of the present or future. Like, for example, you can ask when do we start, or you can recall when I was a kid, or you can talk about future plans like when you call her tomorrow, tell her this or that. But in German, there are actually three words that mean when, and those are wann, wenn, and als, and they are not equivalent. So you need to differentiate between them and you need to know when to use each word, and that depends on the type of sentence, on whether you're talking about the past, present, or future, and on the type of event or action you're talking about. First of all, wann is just a simple question word that you only use for asking questions about when something happens. Wann has nothing to do with wenn, remember that. So for example, you can ask, wann fangen wir an? When do we begin? Or you can refer to the question using wann. Ich entscheide, wann wir anfangen. I'll decide when we begin. Ich entscheide, wann wir anfangen. You can ask, when are you coming home? Wann kommst du nach Hause? Wann kommst du nach Hause? Wann sind Sie geboren? You may receive this question by an official checking your documents, for example. Wann sind Sie geboren? And if you're recalling the situation, you might say, Sie fragte mich, wann ich geboren sei. She asked me when I was born. Sie fragte mich, wann ich geboren sei. You also use wann in the word combination seit wann. So for example, you can say, seit wann ist der Strom aus? Since when are we out of electricity? Seit wann ist der Strom aus? The real problem is differentiating between als and wenn because both words are used in sentences where one part of the sentence specifies the other part by time. Als is only used for the past and only used to talk about something specific that happened in the past. So for example, sie war nicht zu Hause, als ich angekommen bin. She was not home when I arrived. Sie war nicht zu Hause, als ich angekommen bin. Or the next example. Als ich dich gestern angerufen habe, hast du eine Kollegin von dir erwähnt. When I called you yesterday, you mentioned a colleague of yours. Als ich dich gestern angerufen habe, hast du eine Kollegin von dir erwähnt. The next example is a bit trickier. Als ich studierte, habe ich mich für Fitness begeistert. When I was a university student, I was into fitness or I got into fitness. This is a bit tricky because als ich studierte doesn't refer to a single point in the past, nor are we talking about a single specific thing. So the process of getting into fitness or being into fitness probably lasted longer than just a single point in time or a single event that happened. Just remember, we're talking about something specific that happened in a specific period of time. So we're not talking about relations between events, but rather we're just talking about the past. And so we use als. Als ich studierte, habe ich mich für Fitness begeistert. Als is also widely used in historical texts. So for example, der Wiedervereinigungsprozess begann am 9. November 1989, als die Berliner Mauer fiel. The reunification process began on the 9th of November 1989 when the Berlin Wall fell. Der Wiedervereinigungsprozess begann am 9. November 1989, als die Berliner Mauer fiel. Please note that the word als also has two other meanings. One of them is than, as in the sentence Ich bin größer als du. I am taller than you. Ich bin größer als du. The other meaning of als is as, like when you say as a man, as a woman, as a boss, as an American, and so on. Als Chef habe ich viele Verantwortungen. As a manager or as a boss, I have many responsibilities. Als Chef habe ich viele Verantwortungen. Wenn is used whenever you don't use als. So if you're talking about the present and the future, you'll use wenn. And if you're talking about recurring events in the past, so relations between events, I mean, whenever A happened, B happened, you also use wenn. Let's look at a couple of examples. Wir fangen an, wenn wir fertig sind. We'll begin when we're ready. Wir fangen an, wenn wir fertig sind. The next example. Wenn ich wieder vorbeikomme, kannst du mich ihr vorstellen. When I come by the next time, can you introduce me to her? Wenn ich wieder vorbeikomme, kannst du mich ihr vorstellen. And another example. Wenn ich das jetzt fertig mache, mache ich eine Pause. When I'm done with this now, I'll take a break. Wenn ich das jetzt fertig mache, mache ich eine Pause. Now let's look at an example when we use wenn for events that happened in the past. Essentially, we use wenn in the sense of immer wenn, always when. So you think of it this way, always when one thing happened, another thing happened. And you're not talking about one specific event, but this relation between the two. So for example, immer wenn ich nach Hause gekommen bin, hat mich Fido an der Tür begrüßt. Always when I came back home, Fido greeted me at the door. So every time I was back, the dog would greet me. Immer wenn ich nach Hause gekommen bin, hat mich Fido an der Tür begrüßt. Please note that wenn also has other meanings, namely, it can mean if in conditional sentences and in sentences about unreal situations. So here are a couple of examples. Wenn ich heute Zeit habe, rufe ich dich an. If I have time today, I'll give you a call. Wenn ich Kinder hätte, könnte ich nicht jeden Abend Party machen. If I had children, I wouldn't be able to party every evening. When talking about the past, it may be difficult to decide if you're going to use wenn oder als in cases where you're talking about a period of time and something used to happen every day over that period. So for example, als ich ein Kind war, habe ich jeden Tag nach der Schule StarCraft gespielt. When I was a child, I played StarCraft after school every day. So in this case, we have a repetitive action, but the emphasis is not on a relation between events. You're not saying every time I was a child, I played StarCraft after school. You're talking about a period in the past and something that happened during that period. The period is als ich ein Kind war, when I was a child. And the thing that happened is, ich habe jeden Tag nach der Schule StarCraft gespielt. On the other hand, here in the second sentence, we have immer wenn. Immer wenn ich nach der Schule StarCraft gespielt habe, hat meine Mutter gemeckert. Always when I played StarCraft after school, my mom would complain. Immer wenn ich nach der Schule StarCraft gespielt habe, hat meine Mutter gemeckert. So here the emphasis is on immer wenn, is on the relation between playing StarCraft after school and your mom complaining. Remember, you can only say immer wenn, you can't say immer als. Always when. Immer wenn ich nach der Schule StarCraft gespielt habe, hat meine Mutter gemeckert. And you can see this also in the last two examples. Als wir im Urlaub waren, sind wir jeden Tag schwimmen gegangen. And wenn wir im Urlaub waren, schaltete mein Vater sein Handy stumm. So in the first case, you're talking about a specific vacation where every day you went swimming. When we were on vacation, we went swimming. You're telling a story about something that happened. In the second sentence, wenn wir im Urlaub waren implies immer wenn. Wenn wir im Urlaub waren, schaltete mein Vater sein Handy stumm. Or immer sein Handy stumm. The emphasis here is on the relation between being on vacation and Dad turning off his phone sounds. To recap, how do you decide which of the three words you use? Well, are you asking a when question when something happens? Then use wann. Are you talking about something specific that happened in the past? Are you telling a story about the past? Use als. In all other cases, use wenn. Here are a couple of exercises to practice what we learned today. The answers are in the video description. In the first exercise, you have to fill in the blanks with wann, wenn, oder als. And in the second exercise, you have to translate into German these 8 sentences. That was all from me for today. Thank you very much for sticking with me till the end. Please give this video a like if it was useful to you, and tschüss!